Alright, let's start working through Fraction Basics Study Guide. The first four, my task is to simplify the fractions. Number 1 is 3/18. So to simplify this, I'm going to divide the top by 3 and the bottom by 3. I do this because I know that 3 can go into 3 and 3 can also go into 18. 3 divided by 3 is 1 and 18 divided by 3 is 6. So I simplified it to get the answer of 1/6. Alright, let's do the next one. The next one is 8/32. I'm going to divide the top by 8 and the bottom by 8 because this is a large number and I know that 8 can go into 8 and 8 can also go into 32. 8 divided by 8 is 1 and then 32 divided by 8 is 4. So my simplified fraction for number 2 is 1/4. Let's move to number 3. Number 3 is 14/49. Now, I know that I'm going to have to find a large number that can go into both 14 and 49. And the number that I'm thinking of is the number 7. 14 divided by 7 is 2, and 49 divided by 7 is 7. So I know that my answer is 2/7. Alright, let's move to number 4. This one is 35/75, and they both end in 5, so I know they both can be divided by 5. If I divide the top by 5, I'm going to get 7, and the bottom by 5, I get 15. Although 7 and 15 are both larger numbers, they both don't share a common denominator, so I'm going to leave my answer as 7/15. This is the simplest fraction that is equivalent to 35/75. Alright, let's move to the next set of questions. Questions 5 through 8 say to find an equivalent fraction. Question 5 specifically, the fraction is 2/7. An equivalent fraction is a fraction that has different numbers, looks a little different, but when simplified could still equal 2/7, or the fraction that is listed. So I could multiply 2/7 by 1, but that would just give me the same answer. So I'm going to do the next step, and I'm going to multiply the top and then the bottom by 2. 2 times 2 is 4, and 7 times 2 is 14. So my equivalent fraction for 2/7 is 4/14. Let's move to question 6. Question 6 is 6/9. Now this one I could multiply by, but I know that 6 and 9 share a common factor. That common factor is 3. So I'm going to divide 6 by 3 and divide 9 by 3. If I divide 6 by 3, I get 2, and 9 by 3, I get 3. So I know that 2/3 is equivalent to the fraction 6/9. Alright, let's move to question 7. This one's a little different. It's 7 over something equals 28/42. The first step that I'm going to do is do 7 times something to get me 28. I know that 7 times 4 gets me 28. But what I do to the top, I also have to do to the bottom. So the question mark times 4 has to get me 42. My job is to find what the question mark equals. So what I'm going to do is long division. I'm going to do it down here. I'm going to do how many times does 4 go into 42? Because it doesn't go in evenly. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 minus 4 is 0, and I'm going to bring down the 2. Now, 4 doesn't go into 2, so I'm going to put a 0 here. And since I'm going to add a 0 behind 42, I have to add a decimal in my answer. I'm going to bring down the 0. 4 goes into 20 5 times, and I write that up here. 5 times 4 is 20. So 20 minus 20 is 0. So my answer is 10.5. I'm going to bring that over here and say that 7 over 10.5, write a different color, is equivalent to 28/42. That's my answer. Alright, let's move to number 8. This one's pretty similar to number 7. I need to find a number that 24 can be divided by to get 8. And I know that 24 divided by 3 gets me 8. So I need to do 48 divided by 3 to get me a question mark. I'm going to do long division again. Change the color. I'll do 3 and see how many times that goes into 48. 3 goes into 4 once. 1 times 3 is 3, so I write that there. 4 minus 3 is 1. I'm going to bring down the 18, and this is nice. 3 goes into 18 evenly. It goes in 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18, and if I subtract, I get 0. So my answer is 16. I'm going to rewrite this as 24 over 48 is equal or equivalent to the fraction 8 over 16. That's my answer. All right, let's do the next one. The next set of questions is questions 9 through 12, and they read convert into mixed numbers or improper fractions. Let's start with question 9. Question 9, I know, is an improper fraction because the numerator is larger than the denominator. I'm going to see how many times 4 goes into 35 evenly or whole times. And I know that this is going to be 8 whole times. I did this because I started with a benchmark, like 4 times 10. 4 times 10 is 40. So I need to do one smaller, but 4 times 9 is 36. So one smaller is 4 times 8, which is 32. So 4 times 8 is 32. 8 is my whole number, but I need to see what fraction is left over. 35 minus 32, I got it down here, is equal to 3. So I know that I have 3 more pieces colored in, but those 3 pieces don't equal a whole because my denominator is 4. So my answer is going to be 8 3/4. What this means is I have 8 whole pies colored in, and then 3 slices of pie colored in out of the pie that's split into 4 pieces. So 8 3/4 is the mixed number of 35/4. Let's move to the next one. Number 10 is 45/7. I need to see how many times 7 can go into 45 evenly. The first that I had was 7 times 5. If I did 7 times 5, I would get 35. Well, I know that 7 can go into 45 more than 5 times. So why don't I do 7 times 6? That's going to give me the answer of 42. And that one's the closest to 45 because if I added 7 more to 42, I would be over 45. So I know that my whole number has to be 6. I'm going to do 45 minus 42, which is going to get me 3. I know that I have 3 more pieces colored in of the pie that's cut into 7 pieces. So I'm going to bring that 3 back up to my answer, and I'm going to write 3/7. Again, what this means is that there is 6 whole pies that are colored in, and each pie is cut into 7 pieces. So 6 whole pies colored in, each cut into 7 pieces. That would be 45 pieces in total. But 6 whole pies and 3 pieces of a pie colored in out of 7. So my answer is 6 3/7. That's the mixed number for 45/7. All right, let's move to number 11. 11 is 5 3/6. I see that there's a whole number and a fraction. So I'm going to turn this into an improper fraction. How I do this is 5 times 6 because there are 5 whole pies colored in, and each pie is split into 6 pieces. 5 times 6 is 30. And I'm actually going to rewrite that down here, 30. And I know that there's 3 more pieces colored in of a pie that's split into 6 pieces. So I'm going to add 3. 30 plus 3 is 33, and that all needs to go over 6. I'm going to rewrite that up here nicely. So my answer is going to be 33/6. So there's 33 pieces colored in total of pies that are split into 6 pieces each. All right, let's finish this page off strong with number 12. This one looks similar to number 11. It has a whole number and a fraction, so this is a mixed number. I need to change this into an improper fraction. I'm going to do 6 times 8. I'm going to put a little dot there. That means multiplication. 6 times 8, 6 times 6 is 36. And 6 times 2 is 12. So I'm going to add 36 and 12 together to get 48. 6 times 8 equals 48. So I know that I have 48 pieces colored in, but wait, I need to add the 5. So 48 plus this 5 right here is going to equal 53. This means that I have 53 pieces in total colored in of pies that are cut into 8 pieces each. I'm going to write it up here, 53 over 8. Let me remind you of what this means. So I have 53 whole pieces colored in out of pies that are cut into 8 pieces. If I were to reverse this, that means that there are 6 whole pies colored in and 5 pieces left over out of a pie that's cut into 8 pieces. So 53/8 is my answer. All right, question 13 and 14. I'm supposed to find the least common denominator, and it's asking what bottom number would I use. So a least common denominator is a number that both denominators go into, but least common means that it's the smallest. Let's break it down and look at number 13. Now, when you look at this one, initially you might think to multiply 1/4 times 6 and 1/6 times 4, because both you would find a common denominator, but that's not the least common denominator. I know that 1/4 times 3 and 1/6 times 2 will get me a denominator of 12. That's least common because that's the smallest number that 4 and 6 can go into. I'm going to write it vertically, 1/4 times 3 and 1/6 times 2. That little dot is multiplication. 1 times 3 is 3, and 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 2 is 2, 6 times 2 is 12. So this is the least common denominator of 1/4 and 1/6. 12 is the least common denominator. You could either box in 3/12 and 2/12, or you could just write 12 off to the side because that's the least common denominator of 1/4 and 1/6. Now that we know how to do 13, let's do number 14. This one's a little bit different though. I'm going to start by looking at 8/12. 8/12 is not completely simplified. I want to simplify 8/12. 8 over 12, and I'm going to divide the top by 4 and the bottom by 4. I'm going to do this because I know that 12 divided by 4 is 3, and I have 3 in my answer over here. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. Oh, 2/3 and 2/3, which I just found, they're the same number. They're the least common denominator, but they equal the same thing. So you could either box in 2/3, or you could just write the number 3, because that's the least common denominator that you could use. All right, let's move to the next set of questions. This is 15 through 22. For all of these, I'm just supposed to solve and make sure I show my work. For 15, it's 4/6 minus 1/6. This one's really nice because the denominator is the same number. So I can just multiply across the numerator. 4 minus 1 equals 3. And I don't do 6 minus 6. For addition or subtraction, I leave the denominator. So my answer is 3/6. Oh wait, I'm going to get rid of that box. I can simplify this. 3/6 is also equal to 1/2. So I'm going to box that one instead because 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I'm going to leave 1/2 as my answer. Let's move to number 16. This one's also really nice because it's the same denominator, so I can just add across the top. 3 plus 5 is 8, and you don't add the denominator, so you just carry it over. It's just 8. I'm not going to leave 8 over 8, though. 8 divided by 8 is just 1, so that's my answer. All right, let's move to number 17. This one's going to take a little bit more work because I need to find a common denominator in order to add of 3/8 and 1/2. I'm going to write it vertically, 3/8 and 1/2, and I know that 2 can be multiplied by 4 to get 8. So I'm going to do 2 times 4, I'm going to do that to the top and the bottom. 2 times 4 is 8, and 1 times 4 is 4. So I have 4/8. And then for the top, I'm going to do 3 times 1 and 8 times 1, just to show that I know the process to find a common denominator. 3 times 1 is 3, and 8 times 1 is 8. So 8 is my common denominator. Now I'm going to rewrite this. 3/8 plus 4/8 gets me 7/8. I'm going to bring this answer all the way up to the top just to make it look nice. I know that 3/8 plus 1/2 is 7/8. That's my answer. All right, let's move to number 18. This one's going to take a little bit more work too. You might think that I could divide 12 by 3 to get 4 and 8 by 2 to get 4, but both of my numerators are odd, so that will not work. So I need to find a different common denominator. I'm going to write it vertically, and I'm going to think about a common factor between 12 and 8. The factor that I'm thinking of is 24. 12 times 2 is 24, so what I do to the bottom, I have to do the top. 12 times 2, again, 24. 7 times 2 is 14. Now, I need to find a number that 8 can multiply by to get 24. That number is going to be 3, so my denominator is 24. 3 times 3 is 9. Those are my common denominators. I'm going to rewrite it though. I'm going to do 14 over 24 minus 9 minus 24. And I'm going to get my answer of 5 over 24. And I'm going to rewrite it just to make it look nice. I'm going to rewrite it over here as 5 over 24. Now sometimes you could simplify these problems, but 5 and 24 don't share a common factor, so 5/24 is just my answer. All right, let's move to number 19. This one's a little bit All right, now I'm on number 19. This one's a little bit trickier. Both numbers are mixed numbers, but I'm going to do a trick. I'm going to separate out the 2, and I'm going to separate out the 1. I'm going to forget about those right now, and I'm just going to find a common denominator of 1/4 and 1/6. Now, if you wanted to, you could change these into improper fractions and then solve from there. That's just going to take a little bit more work than the trick I have for you. So a common denominator between 4 and 6 is 12. 6 times 2 gets me 12, and 2 times 1 gets me 2. And then I have to do the same to this one to get me 12. 4 times 3 equals 12, and 1 times 3 equals 3. Now, I need to remember this is subtraction. I'm going to do 3 over 12 minus 2 over 12. And that's going to give me the answer of 1/12. But I'm not done. That's just the fraction. So I need to also do the whole number. I need to bring those back. 2 minus 1 is 1. And I'm going to bring the fraction back up to get 1/12. My answer is 1 and 1/12. All right, now I'm going to move to question 20. This one is both mixed numbers, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change these into improper fractions. 3 times 6, the dot is multiplication. 3 times 6 is 18, plus 2 is 20 over 6, plus, whoa, that's division, plus, and then 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9 over 4. I'm going to find a common denominator of 6 and 4, and the smallest one is going to be 12. I'm going to write it vertically, 20 over 6 and 9 over 4. 9 over 4, and I'm going to multiply by 3 to get the denominator of 12, and that top would equal 27. And then 20 over 6, I'm going to multiply by 2, top and bottom, and I'm going to get 12 as my denominator and 40 as my numerator. I'm going to add these together. 40 over 12 plus 27 over 12. I'm going to get 67 over 12. I'm going to see how many times 12 can go into 67. 12 times 5 is 60, and if I add 12 more, it's going to be larger than 67. So I know, I'm going to write it all the way back up here, that 12 can go into 67 5 whole times. There's going to be 7 twelfths left over. That's my answer, 5 and 7 twelfths. All right, moving on to number 21. This one is 1/2 times 1/4. I'm going to rewrite it just because the diagonals confuse me a little bit. So I'm going to do 1/2 times 1/4. And this one's nice. I can just multiply across the top and multiply right across the bottom. 1 over 8 is going to be my answer. Moving on to 22. This one is 3/4 times 2/3. I'm just going to rewrite it. 3/4 times 2/3. If I multiply across the top and across the bottom, I'm going to get 6 on top and 12 on bottom. Now, this is the answer, but it's not the best answer I could give. I could simplify this into 6 divided by 6 equals 1. It's 12 divided by 6 12 divided by 6 equals 2. So my answer is going to be 1/2. All right, we're on the last page. 23 and 24 asks us to change decimals into fractions. I know that this 1 is in the 10th spot and the 2 is in the 100th spot, so I'm going to write my answer as 12 100ths. To simplify this, I would take 12 divided by 2 and 100 divided by 2, and I would get the answer of 6/50ths. All right, moving into number 24. This first 0 is in the 10th spot, the second 0 is in the 100th spot, and this 5 is in the 1000th spot. So I'm going to write 5 1,000ths, but this can be simplified. I'm going to do 5 divided by 5 to get 1, and 1,000 divided by 5 to get 200. That's my answer. The last two questions, I'm changing the fraction into a decimal. For number 25, it makes sense to me to think of a quarter and 4 being the dollar. So I know that 4 quarters make $1. So this one would be 0.25 because I have 1 quarter, 25 cents. My decimal is 0.25. All right, for this last one, it's 3/8. I need to change that into a decimal. I'm going to do some division to find that. I'm going to do 3 divided by 8. I know that 8 can't go into 3, so I'm going to put a 0, and I'm going to have to add a 0 behind the 3, so that means I put a decimal in my answer. Something times 8 to get me close to 30. I'm going to do 3 times 8, which is 24. I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to get 6. I'm going to add another 0 behind the 30. I'm going to bring that down. I know that 8 times 5 gets me 40. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 7 is 56. That's the closest to 60. 56. I'm going to get 4, add another 0, bring that down, and then 5 times 8 gets me 40 evenly. So my answer is going to be 0.375.